Right team, welcome back to Carp and another Tackle Tuesdays. In this Tackle Tuesdays, I'm going to be showing you what camera gear protection I generally use when on the bank, and I'll give you my specific reasons and experience of why I now use the kit that I do on the bank. I've done a lot of photography shoots in the past, freelance work for a lot of brands, and Carpology, I did Carpology magazine shoots for a while with my good friend Stu Lennox. And over that time, I take a lot more gear than generally most people will have on the bank. However, some of these bits of kit that I do use might fit into your fishing a little bit. We're not claiming to be experts here at Caravan Carpers, not one bit, but what we are doing is giving you what I've experienced and the reasons for or why I don't use that kit anymore. It might work for you, and if that fits your fishing, this might actually help save you some money and buy the right things that work for you, and I'm not saying go out and buy these things, I'm just giving you my experience. So over the years, I've been a photographer for a massive number of years now. It's got to be 20 plus years I've had cameras, and I've always opted for a full camera system bag. This is a low pro one. These are about £350 and what you should be using, when you're going trekking, you're doing photography shoots, that sort of thing. If you're doing things professionally full time, then you really want flight cases. However, for me, I do a hybrid of both. I do a little bit of freelance work now. I've had to knock a lot of that on the head, but in my general fishing, I do still take out stuff because I have commitments to make, content and things like that. So if you're into YouTube and things like that, then some of this might work for you, as you basically start to get more kit and things like that. You want to protect that kit while on the bank. And this is how and why I protect my kit. So the first thing I do highly recommend is the Korda Compac camera case. So my reason for having the compact camera case, and this fits, so you've got pockets in the top, you've also got a soft pocket inside, and then there is a divider which allows you to fit your camera and stuff like that. I can get a full-size mirrorless camera in here with flashes and other things. The amount of kit that I can get in here, and I used to actually use 2 of these on the bank. However, I gave 1 to Ben as I found I had that much kit and it was starting to get on my nerves. So I might be doing things a little bit different from yourself. You might only have a little small camera, and you can get these in a medium and a small. I think now they range from about 38 to 52 quid, but shop around, you'll probably get them cheaper. I think when I bought these, I only paid about 35. I've had them pretty much since they came out. So why did I swap from my big camera bag? So what I found is I wanted to try and be a little bit more compact and fit less gear in, you know what I mean? And it's at the end of the day, we are fishing, but I do a lot of photography on the bank, and this was getting battered, so you can see how manky it is and stuff, sliding in and out from underneath my bivvy and under my bed chair, sorry. And what I found is that it was starting to get knackered, in all honesty. It wasn't really what it was designed for. It weren't designed to be getting like dragged on gravel all the time and things like that. What was the defining moment for me was when my swim started to get flooded one day. I was fishing on a lake locally, and it broke the bank because of a lot of water, and the water started to rise, so I had a couple of inches of water. Although this cover is waterproof, I was quite paranoid that it was going to get really wet, and I ended up having it like stood on top of something, just to keep it out of the water. At the end of the day, at times I've probably got in excess of, with MacBooks and things, you could have up to £20,000 worth of kit on the bank, if you're doing it for content creation. So I then decided to then get something that was EVA, and something I've started to do over winter is I've started to use a lot of EVA luggage. I really like everything that's white clean, etc. and stuff like that. And this camera bag fits that. There are other camera bags that are carp related on the market, and they're made out of material, and they do have the waterproof bottom and things like that on them. But I find with all, like, especially fishing through winter generally, obviously not so bad in the summer, I find that moisture always gets sucked up into the material, and the last thing you want is really to leave your lenses damp and wet and stuff like that, because what you've got to watch out is you get mold and things like that in your lenses. So I opted for this. It's really well padded. You can fit, if you've got a hell of a lot of kit. I used to have 2 of these, as I said, but I gave 1 to Ben from Parker Baits when I got him his new camera, when we bought him the new camera and his drone and everything, and you could fit his camera, which he uses, and his drone and all his batteries and all that in here really well, and he absolutely loves it. He's had other camera bags in the past, and he was like, Lee, I can't believe how good that actually is. So it's not just me that thinks how good this bag is. One thing I will say, from experience, this doesn't fit into the Korda Compac rucksack very well, as in the 60 litre, I think the one I have is. And the medium size one, from what I've measured, would fit in there better. Obviously the small one I'd anticipate would really fit in there. The next thing then I got was this, and this is the, I think it's called the Avid Tech Pack Pro or something along them lines. They do these in 2 different sizes. So the size I have is the XL, as like I said, you know, and people are probably going to say in the comments it's ridiculous having that amount of kit with you on the bank. But so for example, what I used to do when I was on Carpology, obviously I worked full time but was doing a monthly article for the magazine, and what I found was I wanted to edit on the bank. You know, truthfully, when you're doing media on the bank, your fishing comes second to that, you know. And obviously if anybody does get into like the likes of YouTube and stuff like that, and don't get me wrong, I don't claim to be an expert in any stretch of imagination on video, don't get me wrong, I can hold my own in photography with anybody, you know. I'm quite good at the old photography malarkey, but you want to be able to maximize your time if you're doing it as something, you know, that's like that, for example, getting your YouTube videos, because the truth is, if you do this sort of thing, it will impede on you, like your family life and stuff like that. So what I like to do is get it done on the bank. So when you buy the Avid Tech Pack, obviously again it's EVA, you know, the top of it is hard, and what I really like about that is the fact that it becomes a table. But again, I always have a MacBook with me on the bank because I'm editing and things like that. And I'll just show you now. So the MacBook actually fits in there perfectly, and it can be used as a table, you know. And again, this has got to fit your situation, you know, and that's why I like it. But equally, what also you can do as well is you can put a iPad. So my iPad, you say probably, why do you have a MacBook and an iPad? Well, I use my iPad as my monitor when I'm filming, like, and shooting and things like that, you know, say I'm doing product photography. So I quite like that it has, I don't want to mess this up right now, a recess in it as well. So for anybody that likes it, just for, because it is for your kit as well, not just necessarily photography, but I use it for photography, you can put your iPad in there and it acts as a stand on that as well. So that works really well for me, you know. Just let me put that back over there. So I like that about it, you know, that keeps my MacBook out of, you know, any water or any moisture or anything like that. And I also tend to be fair, I tend to put my cameras on top of here as well, so that keeps them out, so they're to hand if I ever need them, but at the same time they're also protected from being on the ground, because the last thing you want to do is spend all that money on photography equipment and it get damaged. So the next thing I will talk to you about is obviously the inside of it. You know, you've got a very deep pocket at the back here which goes all the way through, and then you have a pocket here. I put things like filters and batteries and stuff like that in there, and it works really well. Obviously the Korda has one as well, but on a smaller size, you know. But again, pick what fits your fishing. One thing that this does have, what I really like as well, is it has this removable accessory bag. And that fits, I believe it fits up to a 16-inch laptop possibly. I currently have a 14-inch MacBook, as I like to have a smaller one on the bank. I have actually removed that. I don't actually use that, because what I use instead is, and you pick these up for, I think they're about 16 quid. I use the Korda Compac tablet holder, but the large one actually fits perfectly a 14-inch MacBook in there, and at the same time I can slide my iPad in the back, you know. So like I said, if this is something, especially just in general day-to-day, I find that that's really padded, really good wearing, you know. Even if you just have a MacBook yourself for anything other than fishing, highly recommend that. It's a great case, and it's the one I use 24/7. And then that actually fits in there, and you can zip it shut then as well, so it protects your MacBook as well. Inside this case is absolutely cavernous, you know. I get, when I've got like monitors and loads of lenses and stuff like that, because I've got different things to shoot, then I put a lot of it in here. It also comes with 2 USB A style connectors, as outside, on the outside of the bag there is, sorry, actually on the front, there's 2 standard USB connectors on the front of there. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have seen them to be USB-C. It allows you to put a power pack inside there and keep that out the wet as well. So it's not just necessarily for photography, this kind of case, to be honest. So you've got so much room inside there. If you think, and you're into content creation, you know, you've got a couple of things like action cameras, you know, cameras, drones and stuff, and you don't think that there's enough space in this bag, what you could do is buy the smaller version of this. They're quite expensive, these. I think I paid about £75 for it. And I always ask myself the question in these videos, would I, if I could get all my money back for these products, would I actually get my money back? And none of them I would, you know. Really like the tablet holder. The tablet holder is absolutely fantastic as a MacBook holder and tablet holder. You know, the compact, this case, for 99% of people, this will do you really well. You know, say you have drones and things like that, and cameras, full DSLRs with like a 24-70, something like that, you know, maybe an extra lens. This is all you'll need. If you've only got a small camera and one lens, you know, no flashes or anything like that, then the medium or the small might do you better. You know, but these are what I use in my fishing. So one thing I always do, and I help hell of a lot of people now on things like TikTok Live and stuff like that, I get a lot of messages on my Instagram, and obviously I get messages on here as well, but get in the comments, you know, if you've got any questions about photography, videography, you know, I'll help you, you know, if the best I can, you know, from what I've experienced, you know, with whether that be what cameras should I really get, you know, what lenses, you know, anything like that, memory cards, you know, anything about any form of photography on the bank, you know, night photography. I was asked to do tutorials for Carp Socials originally, a long time ago, so I do really enjoy teaching that side of it. So if anybody has got any questions about any kind of content creation, you know, my forte is basically, my main thing is photography, so if there's anything I can help you with, get in the comments and ask the questions, you know, or direct message me. You know, I'm always here to help people, and that's what it's about for me. I love the helping people and teaching people and things like that. So get involved, and you know, anything I can help you with, I always will. Also got to tell you now a little bit about the giveaways. So what we do at Caravan Carpers is the money that we earn from what we make from the videos, we then put forward to buy products to give away to the subscribers. And a lot of the stuff I have is high-end. So my current rods are Free Spirit high S Ives in 13 foot, and I want to do a comparison. So what I've done is, so we've just made £130 now from probably about 6 or 7 videos. So we've got that together. The last money we made before that, we bought the Ridge Monkey pans, which we're giving away. So if you haven't watched that video, get involved with that video after this. That's still going. When we hit 6,000 subscribers, we will be giving away them pans. But so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be buying Free Spirit's cheapest 13 foot distance rod, the Helicals, I think they're called. I don't know if that's fully pronounced how it is. And I'm going to test against that. You know, I think the highest Ives are about 600 quid, probably around that sort of money, you know, and not a lot of people can really afford that level of rod. And truthfully, do I think you need that level of rod? Not always. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test, I think, the £130 rod versus the £600 rod on a field with a measure and see how much distance it actually makes. You know, will you get that extra distance? And then I'm also going to take it fishing. I'm going to go somewhere like Drayton or something like that, you know, I catch a lot of fish, and I'm going to put them against each other, how I actually feel, you know, playing fish, on the difference between the rods, and give a real honest and open comparison, you know. And then I will give that one rod away at the end of the video. I probably at 6,500 subscribers, I'll give that one rod away. And you're probably thinking, well, why only give one rod away? At the end of the day, we don't make that much money, but if somebody's going to watch that video, they're probably interested in buying that rod. So to save yourself 130 quid out of buying, you know, a full set of rods is a little bit of a thank you for watching the channel. So if you enjoy this style of content, don't forget to like, subscribe and share it with everyone. Let's get these giveaways getting even better. So thanks for watching. Caravan Carpers out.